Thank you all for joining us today with the Disability Organizing Network's Dialogues in Disability Pride and Culture series. Our website is www.disabilityorganizing.net, and I hope that you have a chance to check us out on the web. And on this slide, there is an image of the Disability Organizing Network logo, and it says DoNet on it. So I'm really happy that we're being joined today by folks from the Statewide Self Advocacy Network at the State Council on Developmental Disabilities for this Employment First webinar. Employment is a big priority for the SSAN, and so we're going to be hearing from a lot of folks today about what they're doing to promote California's Employment First policy. But first, before we get started, I want to introduce and get everyone familiar with our presenters today. I'll be presenting and moderating on today's webinar. Again, my name is Ted Jackson with California Foundation for Independent Living Centers. We're also joined today by Kecia Weller from the University of California, Los Angeles Tarjan Center. Kecia has been a member of the State Council on Developmental Disabilities, is chair of their Employment First Committee, and is a member of the Statewide Self Advocacy Network. How are you doing today, Kecia?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you, Ted.
Great. It's great to have you with us. So you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I am a very enthusiastic self-advocate, and employment is one of my very much loved ways of helping people advocate and get jobs for themselves. I love employment.
Well, I like employment too. I think a lot of us do, so I'm happy that you're so enthusiastic. We're also joined by Lisa Cooley, who is an SSAN member representing the Alta Regional Center. Good morning, Lisa. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So, Lisa, you want to tell folks a little bit about yourself?
I'm a longtime Sacramento resident. I'm a former member of the California State Council on Developmental Disabilities. I am vice chair of our Employment First Committee, and I have a passion for advocating for people who have disabilities around several different areas, employment being one.
That's great. Well, welcome, Lisa, and I'm really glad that you could join us today. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and our first presenter is going to be Kecia. As folks are presenting, I'm going to be moving the slides for them, and so they're going to be saying to me, next slide, please, in between the slides. I'll also be describing the images that are on each one of these slides. And on this particular slide, to start us off, there is a map of California, which shows different regions throughout the state. And I believe these are the regions for the State Council on Developmental Disabilities offices. So, Kecia, you want to get us started?
Yes, of course. What is the State Council on Developmental Disabilities? It's an independent state agency which was established by federal and state law. It's composed of State Council, 31 governor-appointed members, and 13 regional offices throughout the state of California, which basically means that it's, we have 4 self-advocates on the State Council, plus I will believe we've got 4 parent advocates. Plus, on top of that, we've got 1 non-government member. Plus the rest of it is regional. The rest of the State Council is agency appointed. Governor appointed, but agency members. And then the rest, and 13 regional offices that are represent their own regions in the state of California. So that's basically it. And we're a very nice group, and I really love serving on state council. Next slide, please.
On this slide, we have an image of a row of law books with a judge's gavel. Take it away, Kecia.
Thank you, Ted. Federal and state laws. The goal of federal and state laws are to support people with developmental disabilities to achieve self-determination, independence, productivity, and community integration and inclusion. The Developmental Disabilities Act and the Development Act are two prime examples of federal and state laws that help people with developmental disabilities have things that other Americans have in their own lives. I definitely think that is a very true thing, because the Developmental Disabilities Act and the Development Act are great laws. Next slide, please.
The image on this slide is of a person with their arms outstretched, standing on what looks like a hill and a sunset behind them.
Independence. To have control of your life, making your own decisions and choices. A lot of us make big decisions and choices in our lives. Which doctor or medical specialist do we go to? What do we do with our money? Where do we bank our money? That's a choice of independence. Where do we choose to live? What city and state do we live in? Where do we live? Do we live with people, or do we live by ourselves? They're all examples of choices that we live. And they're all examples of choices of independence. Next slide, please.
The image on this slide is of a group of, it's actually a group of arms and hands that are, the hands are wrapped around the wrists, and they're all interconnected.
Productivity. To work and make other contributions to a household or community. To work at your dream job in integrated competitive employment. I love that one. To make contributions to a community by volunteering. To serve, for example, on a board of directors for your local independent living center, or contributing by being a member of an organization like the Statewide Self Advocacy Network, SSAN. There are just a few ways that you can be productive in your own life. Next slide, please.
This slide has a drawing of different multicolored hands and arms that are up in the air, like they're going, like someone has raised them up in the air.
Integration. Right to access the same opportunities, services, community resources as all other Americans. I believe that is very true, because it is our own basic right. And we all have our own true wishes and beliefs. We all have the right to live the American dream. And that's what every person wants, disabled or not, wants. Next slide, please.
This slide has an image of a group of people that are standing hand in hand on what looks like a hilltop with a sunset behind them.
Inclusion. To fully participate, be welcomed in social, educational, work, and community life. To fully participate in community activities like going to a community college, a baseball game, or a theater event with friends and family. Those are examples of being included. By inclusion, it's also meant that you're able to do things like voting in an election or doing jobs that interest you. Inclusion is very important. Next slide, please.
And on this slide, there's a picture of a person holding a piece of paper and a microphone.
This is Liz. She says, I want a job. I want to earn my money. I don't want to just take P&I money. I want to pay my share of taxes. Liz wants a job. She doesn't want to live on government's money anymore. Liz wants to honor the American economic system because he knows when you get a job you love, you also pay your fair share of taxes to support the American way of life. Next slide, please.
On this slide, we have an image of a person working at a computer at a desk.
This is Richard. He says, I want a job. I want to make more money. And I like to keep busy. I'm a hard worker. I need a chance. And I'll be a great employee. Richard wants a job, and research has shown employers who hire people with disabilities report having a positive experience. Hiring individuals with developmental disabilities promotes workforce diversity and is good for the employee, the business, and society. Next slide, please.
And this picture has, this slide has a picture of a man in a suit, and he has his hand over his forehead, and he's looking down. He's sitting on some stairs, and he's holding a sign that says, "Need work."
In California, only 12.45% of working-age regional center clients get a paycheck. Of this 12.45%, many work in segregated work sites, make some sub-minimum wage, or work only a few hours a week. Only 8% work in integrated competitive employment. Those statistics are shocking. And I believe that this slide is pretty much self-explanatory. Next slide, please.
This slide has an image of the scales of justice on it. Lisa Cooley is joining us, and I just wanted to correct something from earlier. I had said that she is with the Alta Regional Center, and of course the Alta Regional Center is in her catchment area here in Sacramento, but she's actually with the State Council on Developmental Disabilities Sacramento Regional Office, so I wanted to make that clarification. And Lisa's now going to talk to us about the history of employment in California. Take it away, Lisa.
History of employment first in California. In 2009, Assembly Bill 287 became law. This law told the State Council to do these things. First, start an Employment First Committee, referred to as the EFC. Second, develop an Employment First policy. Third, identify strategies, best practices, and incentives or reasons to increase integrated competitive employment. Next slide, please. We accomplished this with annual reports to the legislature and the governor,
And on this slide, we do have a few images. And Lisa, I'm going to be describing the images at the beginning of each slide. This slide has an image of a checkbox with a check mark going through it. And then it's got 3 images of the Employment First Committee Annual Report for 2011, 2012, and 2013. These are the front pages of the report. And this slide also has the checkbox, and it has an image at the bottom. It's got basically three images. The first one is a demonstration of the wage gap, and it's a series of half circles that are interconnected. And then it has a pie chart that shows where people are served. And then the third set of images is California's employment rate. And there's an image of people holding hands and someone in a wheelchair in their drawings, and then another image of a drawing of many, many stick figure people. Go ahead, Lisa.
ESC accomplishments continued. We created a data dashboard on the State Council website. This dashboard shows data and tracks how well California is doing in supporting people to have regular jobs at regular pay. Another accomplishment is a focus on youth and underrepresented groups. Underrepresented groups are people who are minorities, or women, are lesbian, gay, transgendered, and or questioning people. Another accomplishment is that in October 2013, California passed the Employment First law, joining 22 other states that already had Employment First policies in place. Assembly Bill 1041 is a bill signed by Governor Brown so people with disabilities can get employment that is needed to be productive in their lives. The Employment First law says, it is the policy of the state that opportunities for integrated competitive employment shall be given the highest priority for working-age individuals with developmental disabilities, regardless of the severity of the disability.
On the screen right now, folks, you're seeing a slide, and Lisa was talking about the focus on youth and other unserved and underrepresented groups. And on this slide, we do have, again, the checkbox with the check mark in it. And then we have pictures, 4 different pictures of different people on this particular slide. And then on the next slide, we repeat the image of the checkbox with the check mark and an outline map of California. And is this where we should be, Lisa, is on this slide?
Yes.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
Now we'll define what is known as ICE. ICE is Integrated Competitive Employment. It's intended to be the first option considered by planning teams for working age individuals, and this comes directly from the Employment First Law. Next slide, please.
And on this slide, there is an ice cube.
Integrated means a job in the community where you do not spend most of your day with people who have various disabilities. Competitive means you are paid at minimum wage or above. Next slide, please.
This slide also has the same image of an ice cube. And this slide has an image of a red circle with a red line going through it over the word readiness.
You do not have to earn, quote unquote, earn your way to an integrated competitive employment job. You do not have to go to a workshop first or work in a group or an enclave first. You do not have to improve your behavior first or have good attendance at a workshop before you can get help to look for integrated competitive employment in your community. Next slide, please.
This slide has a picture of a man standing in front of a building, and he's smiling.
And this is a quote for that same person. When I worked at a workshop, I got an Employee of the Month certificate. I asked if I could have a job in the community, but they said I wasn't ready. If the Employee of the Month couldn't get a community job, who could? He quit the workshop. Next slide, please.
This slide has the picture of the same person, Robert, who's a Statewide Self Advocacy Network member representing the UC Davis Mind Institute, and it's Robert smiling, sitting at his desk in front of a computer.
He says, I've been working at Target for 14 years and the UC Davis Mind Institute for 3 years. I didn't need the workshop to get ready for a community job. Next slide, please.
All right, thank you, Lisa. Thank you very much. And now I'm going to jump in here and talk a little bit about customized employment. So again, this is Ted Jackson here with California Foundation for Independent Living Centers. I'm also a member of the Statewide Self Advocacy Network as an invited partner. So according to the U.S. Department of Labor, because definitions are always important for us to follow, customized employment is flexible. It is based on an individualized match between the strengths, conditions, and interests of a job candidate and the identified business needs of an employer. So what it really does is it customizes, or it matches the needs of the employer with the needs of the worker so that both sides are happy. Customized employment utilizes an individualized approach to employment planning and job development. It uses one person at a time, one employer at a time. So we're not talking about things on a large, grand scale level, although when enough customized employment happens, there is a large, grand scale to it. But really, customized employment deals with one person and one employer at a time. On this slide, there is an image of 5 people. It's an outline drawing of 5 people. 4 of them are in gray, and 1 of them is in blue in the center. And on this slide, there is an image of a person, and it looks like that they are dressed like they work in a hospital. And this person is Max, and he's an animal caretaker at Sunrise Animal Hospital. And Max has a quote here, and he says, "Find jobs people can know how to do. Try different kinds of jobs. Never give up on people. Treat us like real human beings, not a baby. And so he gives some really, really good advice there, in that you have to be out searching for the type of employment that you want, and something that matches you, your goals, your objectives, and your personality. That's really important. So let's talk a little bit about micro-enterprise. And micro-enterprise is how you can earn money by having your own business. Just kind of show of hands, is there anyone out there who's ever owned their own business? I want to raise my hand because I did once. Owning your own business is really, really tough. Oh, I see another person and another person. There's 3 of us out there. Great. It's really tough, but it's also very, very rewarding. So a micro-enterprise is a small business, and it means small business is owned by individuals with developmental disabilities who have control and responsibility for decision-making and overseeing the business. This is a result of the Employment First Law. Employment First Law allows each of you to have your own business. The image on this particular slide is a picture of an outline of 4 people, and 3 of them are holding up something, and what they're holding up says small business, and one of them is standing confidently with her arms crossed. And on this next slide we have a picture of a woman sitting in a chair surrounded by a lot of boxes, and she's shredding documents into a document shredder. And she says, I started with a small shredder that was a donation. I made enough money to get a business license, and I opened a business checking account. Then with my savings, I purchased a commercial shredder. My business has grown, so I'm now able to pay myself some money every week. And this is Janice. Janice is the owner of Kecia Shredding. She started her own shredding company. That's really great. She found something that she likes to do, and she found a way for it to be profitable for her. On this slide we have a couple of images. One is an image of a anime cartoon drawing of a little girl, and it says Kawaii Rabbit Designs on it. And then the other image is an image of a table at a resource fair with a lot of products on it. Looks like the products are for sale. So a business can be based on your own talents. I know a lot of folks out there love art, and they like to draw, and they like to do all sorts of things, and it certainly can be based on your own talents. This slide is about Jessica, who started Kawaii Rabbit Designs in 2011. And Jessica says, I love it. I can't imagine myself doing anything else. I'm able to do something that I love and enjoy. I sell my art at anime fairs, my website, and through my Facebook page. My church has me send one of my cards to all our members on their birthday. That's really great because you can see that not only is she engaging the individuals in the common market, people who are going to purchase things, but she's also engaging her church. So she's growing her business by engaging another organization. I think that's really cool. And this picture has a photo of a person sitting in a car and smiling. So good jobs can change lives. And this is Adrian. Adrian said, last year I wasn't thinking about a job. I was good living off of SSI every month. And Adrian had worked at a lot of different jobs, but none of them had worked out. Then, last year, Adrian got a job at Safeway as a courtesy clerk. Adrian likes this job because there's a lot of variety each day. He's good at multitasking, he likes multitasking, and he likes helping people. This job fits his strengths and interests. Adrian has opened up a bank account and a 401k retirement account. So Adrian, his getting a job has really made him think forward, and that's really cool. His goals are, as he says, to keep this job, never get written up, that's a good thing, and to make smart decisions with my money. So Adrian's advice for others is be a sponge. Learn from others who have been there and have a great attitude, and have the right attitude. And this is a picture of Adrian on this slide. He's wearing a Safeway uniform. He looks like he's in a parking lot, and he's got an orange vest on. All right, and now I'm going to hand it back to Kecia, who's going to talk to us about supported employment. And on this slide, there is a street sign, and the street sign has 3 arrows on it. And the 3 arrows say which, the second one says way, and the third one says to go.
How a supportive employment agency can help you. A supportive employment agency cannot just help you fill out applications. A supportive employment agency can help you figure out how kinds of jobs you might and would be good at. They can also help set up internships. I personally know quite a bit about a supportive employment agencies because I have worked with one for more than 10 years. Job developers can help you find all kinds of jobs you want by discovering your particular interests. Next slide, please.
And this slide has an image of 2 people sitting at a table talking with a laptop in front of them.
How a supportive employment agency can help you. They can help you interview. When you are hired, they will train with you and make sure you know the job. Can help you work out supports or accommodations that you succeed. Once you know the job, they can follow up to make sure things continue to go smoothly. When I was interviewing at a job, my job coach helped me with positive interviewing techniques. She also helps me by training me for more difficult job duties I have to accomplish sometimes at the Tarjan Center. The supportive employment agency can work with the employer to get the support you need on your job. Next slide, please.
This slide has an image of a stick figure that's kind of reaching up, and there's a blue background behind it and lots of stars, like it's reaching for the stars.
What to do if you want a job? Number 1, tell your service coordinator that you would like a job. They have an IPP meeting. You can ask to have an IPP meeting anytime you want to change your services. You do not have to wait for your annual or tri-annual meeting. If you need help telling your service coordinator that you want to schedule a IPP, you can have a friend, family member, or an advocate help you with this. Remember, you may request another IPP from your service coordinator even if you have already had a IPP. The regional center services are centered around you. Next slide, please.
This slide has an image of some drawn figures, and there's 3 of them in red, green, and blue, and they're holding up 2 other people figures, one in pink and one in purple, and those 2 are holding up another one in blue, kind of like a pyramid, and that person is reaching to the sun.
What a beautiful image. What to do if you want a job? At your IPP meeting, say what you want, an individual job in the community that pays at least minimum wage. Ask for a referral to the Department of Rehabilitation. Then, choose the supportive employment agency you want to work with. And this is most important. If anyone tells you no, or that you're not ready, get help from a friend or advocate I know a lot of regional center clients that like to bring a friend, a family member, or an advocate to their IPP for support when asking for something they want, like an individual job in the community, at least minimum wage. Also, it is very important that if anyone tells you no or you're not ready, always get help from a friend or advocate. And don't give up. Even if they repeatedly say, no, you're not ready, never give up. That's very important to know. Next slide, please.
This slide has an image of several hands reaching up, and underneath them says the words "get involved."
That's Lisa again.
Okay. There's still work for all of us to do. Getting the Employment First law passed in California was an important first step, but there is still work to do. What can you do? Tell your friends about Employment First. Contact your state council regional office to find out what new laws are being worked on to help people get supported employment services.
In this slide, we're now at the end for the thank you and any questions. And this slide has a picture of a downtown city area with a big banner. Looks like the banner's in a small park on a structure, maybe from an event, and the banner says "Employment First, Equal Opportunities for People with Disabilities." So before we get started with Q&A, I just want to give a big thank you to Kecia Weller and Lisa Cooley. So let's give them all a big round of applause. If you go over and put your cursor on the smiley face button and click on the applause, we can give them an applause and a thumbs up. So thank you very much. So who would like to start us off with a question?
Yeah, Randy Nixon, California Disability Rights. I would like to let you know that Sacramento County is also working on this Employment First program because we want to get people off Social Security and getting them to work through their work job program. My question is, all of the programs that you talked about, who makes sure that they're accessible, that these programs are accessible and that they work with them and they have sign language and they have applications that they can read and they can use their wheelchair and get around. So I just wanted to ask, that's the first part of the question, is how are the accessibility issues about making sure that people can get to work?
So that's a really good question, because that brings a whole other layer on top of the issue of employment. That it's not that you just have this sort of spiritual access to employment, like, employment can be there for you, you have laws protecting you, but there's, in a tangible sense, in a very real sense, when you get to work, you have to know that it's going to be accessible for you. And a lot of that is going to be protected under the Americans with Disabilities Act, which protects any employee and their access issues at work regarding reasonable accommodations. But does anyone else want to chime in on answering that? Are there any of the staff, maybe from the State Council, that are on, or Kecia or Lisa?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
If you have any disability, and you want to work anywhere, any employer that has at least 15 employees or more is supposed to accommodate you as long as you can do any job with or without accommodations, and it's your responsibility as either a potential employee or an employee to say, I can do whatever job, but due to my disability, I need A, B, C, D, E, F things to accomplish my job duties. Does that answer your question?
I mean, that was a great answer, Lisa. And that, you know, there's, as I said before, there's protection under the Americans with Disabilities Act, but Lisa, you know, really brought it into a really cool perspective in that there's a personal responsibility with that too. You have to let your employer know what accommodations you need to be able to do your job successfully. So I know Randy has one more question, and Randy, I'm going to ask you to ask your question because we've got questions lining up after that too. So can you go ahead and ask your second question?
Right. Follow up. How do you make sure that you get the accommodation that you're going to get? What is the process that you have to do to make sure that you get it? I guess that's what it is. Once you say you want it, what do you do to make sure you get it?
So Kecia and Lisa, you know, once you've told your employer about the accommodation that you need, what systems are in play within the Employment First policy that protect you so that the employer has to provide it? Or do you, if they're not providing it or not providing it properly, do you have some type of recourse of action? Who can you go to make sure that you get your accommodations?
I won't answer this related to the Employment First policy, but I found out that if you want to work for the state and you have any disability, developmental or otherwise, you have to fill out certain forms that say what your disability is or what your disabilities are, and that you need particular accommodations, and you have to explain in some detail what the accommodations you need are and how they can help you do your state job successfully. And then those accommodations have to be approved by your supervisor and other people if you work for the state.
Great. So I'm going to move our focus a little bit with the next question, and the next question comes from Philip Pauley with Respectability in Washington, D.C., and just kind of really excited that we have folks from the East Coast that are on the webinar this morning. So this is really awesome. And he's asking about schools and transition for youth, and that's obviously a big topic with the reauthorization of the Rehab Act, which was an amendment to WIOA, and the Workforce Investment and Opportunities Act, which brought to independent living centers the new requirement of youth transition. And that means, you know, youth transition, not just transition of youth from nursing homes into communities, but it means transition from school to employment. Paul's question is, can you talk about programs for youth with disabilities in California? Specifically, can you talk about school-to-work transition programs like Project Search, or about reaching out of school youth, or I think reaching out to school youth as required under the new workforce law, which is the one that I just talked about. So youth and employment, what do you all know about that, Lisa or Kecia?
This is Lisa. I know about Project Search. Project Search started in hospitals with two components. First, a classroom component to teach youth who have disabilities who are trying to make the transition from school to work skills that you can't necessarily learn from a book or in some sort of classroom setting, like such as being on time, knowing how to answer questions, being able to talk to people about your disability or disabilities, being able to express what you need on a job site if you need help or support or have questions. And the other part of Project Search is actual going into medical settings or other environments and having an internship in a community setting where you actually practice skills related to a particular job, such as being a surgery technician assistant if you want to work in a hospital and help surgeons or other doctors during surgery, or being able to work in an office environment as a clerical assistant doing clerical tasks that free up employees for other activities in their workplace. Or just about anything else in the community that could be a job that someone could have with the help of Project Search.
Great. So, Kecia, did you want to add anything about youth and employment?
No, not really.
So this could be my opportunity to do a little plug based upon Philip's question, and that is that where I work at California Foundation for Independent Living Centers, we're all on, we have a program called the DO Network, and of course we're on a webinar today with the DO Network, so you know that program. But we have another program called YO Disabled and Proud, and YO stands for Youth Organized. And if you go to www.yodisabledproud.org, you can go to their website and you can check out a lot of their programs. They do work on many different types of programs for youth, anything from, organizing disability history campaigns, anti-bullying campaigns in the schools, but also moving on to, youth transition and employment. It's a really, really incredible program, and I encourage folks who are interested in youth and employment to really check that out. The other thing that I will give a little plug for here too is, as many of you know, the Disability Organizing Network will be hosting our first statewide policy conference this September, and actually Philip, who asked the question here from DC, is going to be doing 2 workshops at the conference. And it's the California #ADA25 conference, and we're holding this conference to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. There's 34 different workshops throughout a day and a quarter to choose from, and there's a track on employment, so there's a lot about employment. There's some stuff about youth employment, but the main program for the day, the last hour, the last plenary session, and a plenary session is when everyone comes together, is about youth and young professionals. So there will be a young professionals panel who are all young people in their 20s who are working, and it will be their vision for the next 25 years of the ADA that they're going to be talking about. So a lot is happening with youth and employment, and that's really, really good to hear that we're getting a question about it. So before I wrap us up here, do we have a final question from anyone? Otherwise, I'm going to move on to a couple more wrap-up slides. Any final questions? All right. So the DO Network Training Library, we do archive all of our webinars. We record them. They're live captioned, and you can watch them on our training library. Today's webinar will be archived and posted in about 7 to 10 business days. You just go to our website at www.disabilityorganizing.net. Click on the Trainings and Events tab at the top, and then click on Training Archive Library. But also here is the direct web address to go directly to the training library on the slides here. I want to thank you today for attending the Disability Organizing Network's web series, Disability Pride and Culture, Employment First. Thank you very much and have a great day.